Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, the land of pleasant living, is my longtime friend, esteemed colleague, and all-around good egg, John Webster. How you doing, John?
Gary, how you doing, man? Another great week in sports. A lot of stuff going on today. This past weekend that we're going to talk about today. I'm excited. Truly excited to get in these subjects. But before we do it, we'd be remiss if we didn't say hey and what's up to our traffic cop, John Pitt.
Hey, John. How's it going?
Hey, guys. I'm a little nervous after seeing the Celtics go down 2-1. Other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Why are you nervous, John?
That's the way they lost. It's not looking good for them. It's not looking good versus a great defense in Miami.
Yeah.
You didn't bet on them, did you?
Yes, I did bet on them, yes.
Oh, boy. Have you learned nothing from us about don't bet on anything that wears a jock strap or eats hay? Well, in theory, because some of us here in Kentucky go against that. I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. But anyway, so John, that's a perfect lead in about the Celtics, but we'll get to them in a second. Let's talk about the series that is, for all intents and purposes, just about over in the West between the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. By winning 109-100 last night, they've taken a 3-0 lead. They have that championship look about them. It was about as thorough as I've seen them play a game on both ends of the floor between defense and really, really limiting Dallas's opportunities. They're cutting lanes, they're passing lanes, and they basically put it in Luka's hands. I mean, he gets 40, but it really doesn't matter in the end, John. And I think the thing, and we were texting about this, during the game, that for all of the talk about the three-point shooting that they excel at, they were getting a lot of twos. They were getting cuts to the basket. They were getting backdoor plays. I mean, and Steph Curry, of all people, I mean, he was driving the elbows and pulling up for shots. That was impressive to me because it basically tells the rest of the league or the rest of the playoff field, we're not predictable, because everybody thinks of them as the Splash Brothers, and, they can hit it from Oakland if they have to. But last night, between Andrew Wiggins, by the way, who is this Andrew Wiggins guy and where has he been all our lives? And Draymond Green, I mean, that's a pretty formidable force. And Jordan Poole, I can't leave him out. Probably he's not even unsung. I mean, he's a guy that's just come on, and he's a force of his own. So I really liked what Golden State did last night. I mean, I was kind of rooting for Dallas, but it's like when you come on your home floor, you have a chance to cut into a deficit, and you're just not in that game. I mean, they just completely took them out of the game on both ends of the floor.
It was really interesting, Gary, to watch it. I think a lot of this series was turned in game 2 because that was Dallas's game to win. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned a very interesting point about Golden State. Make no mistake about it. They have the most prolific combo three-point shooting duo in league history, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. But, a big but, they're able to still make 2-point shots and drive to the basket, and they use the three as a dagger a lot of times. Friday night, let me digress for a second, Gary, and I apologize. Let me go back to Friday night. They were down by 19, and they kept driving to the basket, and cutting that lead down the third quarter. They did not start the barrage of threes until the fourth quarter. If you remember, Steph Curry hit the three that, pretty much put them to sleep. That was all that she wrote. A dagger three. They drive to the basket, hit on the elbows, take a foul. Wiggins is playing unbelievably. Yes, Doncic is scoring 40 points a game. It's him, but the rest of that team for Dallas is not matching him. I think Finney Smith last night had 9 points. You know, it was Brunson and it was Doncic. I think they had 70 of the 103 points, I think, roughly, if I do my math right. And God knows I'm not good at math. But Golden State was able to keep the crowd out the game. They played very good defense. They still make too many turnovers for me, but they try to keep it down last night. Draymond Green, without a doubt, is the leader, the voice, and he holds down that middle. And when they have in there, I call it DEFCON 3, when they have in there Jordan Poole, Wiggins, Thompson, Poole, and Draymond Green, that's lethal. That's absolutely lethal. And they are tough. Now, with that being said, I'm hoping that they can sweep them tomorrow night, get a little rest, but I'm not sure they're going to do that. It may come back to Oakland or San Francisco, whichever you want to call it, and hopefully wrap it up there if they don't win tomorrow night. But they look really good, Gary. They looked exceptionally tough last night. They kept the Dallas crowd out of the game. There was some cheering, there was some emotion, but they weren't able to get in there and rock and roll like they normally do in Dallas, like they did against Phoenix. And, you know, the looks that they're getting, you know, those guys have to step up and make those shots, and they aren't. I mean, Bertans last night was the Bertans that played for the Wizards. That's what I saw last night. Dinwiddie, he had a great first quarter. He was all right the rest of the game, but he had a great first quarter. You know, and Golden State is on a mission. They want to get to their 6th championship in 8 years. They want to get another ring. And, you know, I was listening to a commentator earlier today, and it's interesting that this team, the way it's built right now, is going back to the way it was built in 15-16 when they had Iguodala and they had Harrison Barnes. This is what they have right now. You got Jordan Poole, you got Wiggins, you got a lot of length. You know, I mean, that second one that they won with Kevin Durant, that was a special one because Kevin Durant is a special ball player. But this team is not put together like that. This team is put together more similar to what they had when they took it in 15-16. And I'm not going to say they're going to win the whole thing, Gary. It's still a long way to go. But I will say this. You will recognize them, you will answer them, and you will have to deal with them because they are coming to play each and every night. Steph Curry is, you know, as much as I fuss about how he changed, he's changed the game. And in some ways, you know, these kids want to be him. If they watch him this series, if you watch him, how he drives to the basket, gets the 2. And I can't stress that enough, Gary. I know I'm old, Gary, and you and me talk about this every week. Drive to the basket, get a foul, go to the foul line. Drive to the basket, shoot an elbow jump shot. Drive to the basket, let somebody come up at you, bounce pass for another layup. That's a plate of grits right there. Layup every time. That's a plate of grits. That's what you do. That 3-pointer, use it to take the game down. Use it as a dagger to knock the team out.
At any point last night, or maybe even the last 2 games, John, when Dallas had the ball, did very few times did I feel like they would come down and shoot a 2 to, you know, really just try to get a basket. They became very, very predictable in game 2. Last night, you pretty much knew every time they had the ball, they were going to jack up a 3. Golden State, the way with the boxing 1 that they really pushed them out, that was part of it. But even with that, when they tried to sag in a little bit and they, you know, hoping to get something better, what happened? They would get the ball near the elbow and then kick it back out. Another 3, clang, off the rim. Another 3, boom, off the backboard. And then when they try to drive the lane, Brunson runs into like 2 or 3 trees and basically just throws up a prayer that goes off the top of the backboard. And I think that was at that point that I texted you that I said he is not the guy that you want driving the lane, going to the basket. You've got Luka. You got Dinwiddie, guys that can go to the hoop, and they just wouldn't do it. And again, that goes to Golden State's defense. And when I saw that boxing one, I was like, for Golden State to pull that out, I'm not saying that it's surprising that they did it. It's still surprising in a game like that they pulled it out, but it was effective. And I'm telling you, it really took away a lot of weapons. It took away just about every scoring option inside that they hope, and I'm talking about inside the arc that they hope to have.
I'm gonna tell you this, Gary. I know you got to move on, but I'm gonna tell you this: if I was a point guard last night against Golden State, I would have gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, because 3 straight times they came down, and you know what they saw 3 straight times? A 2-3, a boxing 1, and a man-to-man. If you're the point guard and you're seeing defenses change like that, oh my goodness, I'm going nuts. Yeah. I mean, that again, give credit to Golden State. They are keeping Dallas on their heels. They're changing things up. And yes, Doncic is getting 40, but it's a quiet 40. And my goodness, he has to really play defense on the other end when he's checking Wiggins.
Yeah, no doubt, John. Well, let's move on to the East with Boston and Miami. And really, what's notable about this series is who might not be available for Game 4. And I'm looking at this list here. Let's see. All right, for Miami, Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero might be out. I think Bam Adebayo is a little banged up. For Boston, Marcus Short. I mean, Marcus Short just looked, like spent. And by that, I mean, the kind of game that he plays, John, I think for him, it's just a matter of getting fluids in him, hoping, he can just be hydrated tonight, because he just plays so all out. I mean, even Jason Tatum, was kind of hobbling there at one point. It's, it basically illustrates what a physical team Miami is, because that's how Miami has this lead right now. That's how I think they can really take control of this series. And I think it was like, I can't remember whether John Pitt and I had agreed about the Celtics. Now that, my pick, the Suns, are out, I was leaning toward the Celtics, but, they've got to save face tonight at home to keep going, maybe get a reset, because Boston can win a game there. I mean, they showed that in winning a game down in Miami. If they can tie it, I think anything is possible. Game 5 would be very, very pivotal, obviously. If they can get an advantage coming back home, I think they could take it in 6 games. But if they lose tonight, this series is over in 5. I truly believe that.
I think Boston's going to be able to pull it out tonight. It's going to be tough. I think you and I were talking earlier, and I'm basically calling this the MASH unit series, because they just have a bunch of injured players all over the place. I mean, Boston tonight, Smart is questionable, Robert Williams is questionable, and Tatum is probable. So, that's tough, and and they've won a game against Milwaukee without Smart. Smart is important. I say he is the epitome of a Boston Celtic right now. He reminds me of the throwback Boston Celtics. I love the guy, and I love his toughness. And he's important, but they can win without him. I think Jaylen Brown's going to have to step up again tonight. He had 40 points the other night.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
But guess what, Gary? Guess what? He also had 7 turnovers. That hurts. That hurts. And I'm going to tell you, what's making a difference for Miami on defense? A really quiet difference. Victor Oladipo. He has stepped in here, and a lot of people have forgotten the all-star that he was. Mm-hmm. He is an unbelievable player. He's been able to check the 2 position, the 3 position, and the 1. He's checked Smart, he's checked Tatum, and he's checked Brown, all 3 of them, and been effective against all 3 of them. Now, with that being said, I still think Boston can win tonight. It will not be easy. They got to go out here and play tonight. Gary, I will say it now. If Boston is to win tonight, when Mr. Tatum drives into the basket, take the shot. Do not pass it back out for a three. Let me say that one more time, Gary. When Mr. Tatum drives to the basket, take the shot or get the foul. Do not continue to pass out for a three-point shot. That's the difference between them and Golden State. Boston shoots threes way too much. Even when they won game 2, still shoot them too much. It's good that you can shoot them. It's good that Brown can make them. It's good that Tatum can make them. It's good that Al Horford can come in and he can nail them. But, man, give me a 2-point shot, because when you miss that three, you're starting something that you don't want to see going the other way every time.
Yep. It's just like what you said earlier, John. The three is supposed to be a dagger shot. And maybe because of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and, just how proficient they are at it, everybody has kind of said, this is how you beat them. This is how you win games. And yet it helps to have a good 3-point shooter. But when that shot first came in, and I'm going to go back and age myself a little bit, but, that was a shot. I think it used to be, John, where you could count maybe on one hand a number of combined shots that were taken a game, because that was really seen as a last option. Of course, that's 40 years ago. We're here in the modern age, and that's their first option. And I really think it's made teams predictable, including Boston, because I want to say in game 7 of the previous series, in that first quarter, where I think something like 10 of their first 13 shots were from 3-point range, and they only hit maybe one. And I'm yelling at the screen, it's like, for crying out loud, a 2 works, just get points on the board. The thing that you said about driving to the basket, okay, 3 things can happen. You can make the basket, you can miss the basket, or you can draw a foul. That's what you tell your players in your leagues, correct? So what's the worst, what's the worst thing you can happen? You can miss the shot. Okay, there's another option. Of course, you could turn the ball over. But again, if you're trying to get points, you try to get points by any means necessary. You get the layup, you get the pull-up jumper, you draw a foul. Those are things that help put points on the board. Stop settling for threes. And at the risk of, again, sounding like, oh, get off my lawn, that again, a 2, you can rack up a lot of points shooting 2s.
Yes, you can. And you can give up a rack of points shooting 3s.
Yeah, because what often happens, John, with a missed 3-pointer, long rebound to other teams on the way down the court. Yeah. We see it, we used to call that cherry picking. I don't know if they still use that term or not, but that's the thing about some of these long jumpers. It's like it plays right into the defense's hands in a lot of ways, because again, they shoot those shots. They rarely have anybody there underneath the basket to get the rebound, and it's often running to the other end.
What's disappointing for me, Boston is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA this year. I mean, I give their coach a great deal of credit. He has brought in a strong defensive program, and all of them have bought into it. But a lot of that, in my opinion, goes for naught when you're continually putting up threes, because you're putting undue pressure on your defense to stop. Because, like I said, Gary, maybe I am the old guy saying get off my lawn, but I just know that 2 can be just as effective as a 3. A lot of times Boston will get on a 3 kick and they're going to shoot 4, 5, 6 threes in a row, and they're beautiful when they're going in. It's a delight. But when you are struggling, I've always believed, and our coaches have always told me, it's easier to start off with short shots and work your way out. Mm-hmm. And when you're in a slump, it's easier to drive to the basket, get fouled, and go to the free throw line. Maybe it's changed. Maybe that's not the way that they play the game the way you and I talk about now, Gary. But I just know that, you can shoot your way into a game with a 3, and you can shoot your way out of a game with a 3.
Yeah, well, to invoke another old school term, John, from when we were players, and you as a coach, you say you live by the jumper, you die by the jumper. And
Mhm.
I think I bemoan the not the lack of fundamentals, but I guess just the lack of a diverse strategy to beat teams. I think I, I can't even recall, John, the last team where guys created their own shots. I mean, well, other than Golden State, where I mean, that was one of the things where they just worked the ball around, and whoever had the ball just worked for the open shot. Everything is set now, and again, it becomes predictable when you know whose hands it's going to end up in from 3-point range, especially when you're going deep into the clock. And what often happens, you're forced to take a shot, and it often plays into the defense's hands, like I said.
Mhm. I agree. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. All right, shifting to football, John, and the hometown team, the Washington Commanders. I'll say your hometown team, the team that I used to follow closely when I was there. Um, John, they continue to be the gang that can't shoot straight. Um, and the thing is, now we're coming to a point of reckoning with Dan Snyder. There's a report out today that the owners are, quote unquote, counting the votes and trying to figure out ways to oust him. It's not because of all the sexual misconduct, lawsuits and scandals and investigations and everything else in the Dan Snyder and the cheerleaders and everything else. You know what it is? It's that the Redskins, excuse me, Commanders. Oh, see, old habits die hard. But Washington basically withheld royalties from visiting teams coming in there. And you don't take money out of billionaires' pockets, no matter what the amount. If it's over six figures, it counts, and you just don't do that. And I think that might have been the final straw. Besides the fact, of course, Snyder just brings undue, unwanted, negative attention to the league.
Well, this is what I'll say, Gary. I heard the NFL today. He said they're counting votes. And in my mind, Gary, I just think that is, and I'm not saying this towards you, I'm saying this towards the owners. That's just bogus. You and I both can count to 24. There are 31 teams in the league. Don't tell me you're counting votes. You already know how many votes you had. Don't tell me that, because all you're basically doing is poking at the bear. You're trying to say something to Snyder to get Snyder to make a move. You don't want him, get him out.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Don't keep on giving me these updates about we're counting votes. Okay, we're not talking about algebra 2 trig. It's 1 to 24. Very simple. You need 20. If I'm not mistaken, Gary, 24 votes is what you need. Am I right or wrong on that? To
That's
get
right.
him out.
Yeah. Three-quarters of the league.
Then come and tell me when you got 24. Don't tell me you're counting the 24. What do you want me to do? Give you a cookie like you're in first grade because you can count to 24? No, count the 24 and then come and tell Gary and I when you have 24 owners who are ready to vote Daniel Snyder out. Also, Gary, today, to add on to Snyder and his mischief or his
Nonsense.
Yes. He spent $100 million. The Commanders did to buy property in I forget the part.
Prince William County. Dumfries. Exactly.
Woodbridge, Virginia, 20 miles outside of DC. So the community is terribly upset because basically this thing that they're building is going to be right in a community. Similar to what they did with when the Washington team came out here to Landover and you built this FedEx Field or whatever it's called now, and you put a sports and learning complex over there.
That nobody can go to in the neighborhood.
Hindsight's 2020. They would have been better served to build 2 community centers. You already have one in there, over 2 of them already there. You have Kentland over there, you have Columbia Park, and you have Palmer Park. 3 of them. You could have used 2 more over there for Washington Heights and the other community over there off Bright Seat Road. 2 community centers as opposed to a sports and learning complex. Sports and learning complex is a wonderful gym, beautiful crown jewel, but it's not serving everybody, in my opinion. You need a community center that's going to serve everybody. Now you have Snyder. He's ready to get out of this area. And most people, Gary, do not want a stadium in their backyard. Most people don't want that.
Yeah, because they don't want the traffic. It's not so much about crime. It's about traffic. So what do they do, John? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
So what do? They pick a spot off of one of the worst areas, traffic snarl area. If you've ever tried to drive to King's Dominion or down to Richmond or go south on I-95, where's the bottleneck start? Just after you get past Fairfax, you get into Woodbridge in that area, and it just becomes a parking lot for about 20 or 30 miles. And you get on the other side of Fredericksburg, going towards Richmond. It is a parking lot. So I think it's just a bad idea, and of course, just another bad idea, but from a team that we become used to bad ideas from.
Well, hopefully, and I know you got to move, Gary. I just say hopefully he will be counted out before he can make this decision about where to move his team. That's what I hope for. Yeah. And I don't like to be negative. You know this, Gary, and you know it too, Pitt. But this guy he's just ridiculous.
Yeah, pushes definitely come to shove with this team. I think the fans are fed up. I think now finally his fellow owners are fed up because. The thing is the longer that this whole thing goes on with these investigations, the more things I think are going to come out that the owners don't want known. And, again, it's the thing about Snyder, and I think this is why they're counting votes. He knows where the bodies are buried in a lot of ways. That's why I think this is going to be a negotiation. But let's move on to college football. Our good old boy, Nick Saban, and I say good old boy, kind of, tongue in cheek, but he really, really, really stirred up a hornet's nest in the SEC and beyond last week when, during a little sit down talk where he basically accused Texas A&M and coach Jimbo Fisher of buying players. Just for a little context, Texas A&M has the #1 recruiting class for 2022, which has never happened. I mean, it's their best class. It is, considered the #1 class, and it's coming off a year where A&M beat Alabama. Saban made that charge, because of NIL. Unfortunately, he also dragged in Deion Sanders of Jackson State and the University of Miami, and the player there who's basically openly saying, if I don't get my money, I'm gone. I don't know why he went there. I really don't. And I'm not saying that Saban said anything wrong necessarily against Texas A&M, but you don't accuse, in my opinion, another coach of buying players. Jimbo Fisher, didn't spare any words, called him a narcissist, said he had a God complex. I mean, I ran out of all the adjectives he used in probably the most potent 10-minute press conference ever. But do we agree that Nick was making a good point, but he made it the wrong way, or do you think he was just wrong, period?
Gary, I'll start off by saying this. People that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's the first thing I'll say about Nick Saban. The next thing I'm going to say is a question to you. All right, he has accused Texas A&M of buying their recruiting class of 2022, the best recruiting class this year, #1 ranked recruiting class. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Okay, so here's my question. Last year, there's a quarterback that plays for Alabama. I think his name is Bryce Young. Do I have his name correct, or am I wrong?
Correctamundo.
Okay, didn't he get an NIL last year for $1 million?
Yep, without throwing a pass.
Okay, he got without throwing a pass. Jimbo Fisher has not broken a rule. He's playing within the rules that the NCAA has set up. Similar to what I've said about John Calipari. John Calipari has played within the rules that are set up, one and done. Whether you like a one and done, whether you don't like it, The rules are there and you deal with it. Whether you like the NIL or not, that's the rules, you deal with it. Nick Saban wants to go out and make a comment about Jimbo Fisher, which, again, you're living in a glass house and you're throwing stones. Next one, let me talk about Coach Sanders, Coach Primetime. You made a comment about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is coming over to Jackson State. He has been accused of getting $1 million NIL. He's transferring in. What school did he transfer in from, Gary?
Florida. I think it was Florida State, right?
Was it Florida State or was it Alabama? Which one was it?
Maybe, no, you're right. Maybe it was Alabama. And I don't even think that the money he got wasn't $1 million. I think it might have been maybe around $250,000 to $500,000. But again, whatever the amount was, John, it's within the rules. And that's the point that he's missing.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah. The thing about this is that he, instead of like lashing out at other coaches and other programs and dragging them into the muck, Deion Sanders said it best. He wasn't so much talking to those guys in particular. He was talking to his boosters and to the donors. Now, compared to maybe Texas, compared to maybe Florida, I mean, I'm talking about the state of Florida, where money is. Yeah, it might be a harder thing, but Alabama has not been hurting all of these years, and they have faced almost the same kind of accusations that he leveled against Texas A&M. And to wrap this up, it's like, like you said about glass houses and throwing stones, that Nick, you're doing pretty good. If you have a problem with the process, talk to your donors, talk to your administration, talk to the sponsors, talk to anybody that comes up with these deals, and don't lash out at other coaches for doing and living within the rules.
I got one better for you, Gary. I got one better. If you don't like the rules and you really can't stand it, you've already won 6 NCAA championships, why don't you go to the pros and coach the pros? Oh, I'm sorry. You can't go there because you're a failure as a pro coach. I'm sorry. You can't do that. So again, I apologize, Pitt. I apologize, Gary. I don't like being negative about people, but again, this burns my spurs because you're basically, what he is doing is an indirect way of attacking a college kid. That's what he's doing, and that's what I find to be terrible. And he has done this himself. It was fine when Alabama was doing it. Now when Jimbo Fisher does it, or when Coach Primetime, Deion Sanders does it, now you have a problem with the situation. Go out and win your game. Go out and beat Kirby Smart at Georgia, which you failed to do this year for the national championship, and you failed to beat Jimbo Fisher this year at Texas A&M. Go out and do that. Go out and win those games. Stop trying to change the platform of what the platform is. And again, if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yep, indeed, John. I mean, that's a final word I can't even add to it about the hypocrisy, more than anything else. Well, that wraps it up. There was a whole lot we couldn't even get to, like the Preakness and the PGA Championship. Read about it on apnews.com or your local newspaper. Support local journalism. John Pitt, as always, thank you for your help in keeping us in line, if not trying to keep us on time. John, I'll throw it to you.
Hey, guys, thanks for bearing with me today. Y'all put 2 subjects in here that really burn a hole in my spurs. So thank you for being patient with me, Gary. Don't trick me like this again and get me upset anymore. But hey, you all enjoy your week. Have another great week in sports. Watch these NBA playoffs. Watch some baseball. Don't forget to watch college lacrosse too. It's the championship for college lacrosse is this weekend. Go cheer for those Terps. Go cheer for those Terps. Take care, y'all. Have a great week. Have some fun. We'll see you again real soon.
Out.